following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. It's a joy, honor, and privilege to be with you all once again. And speaking of a joy, honor, and privilege, right here, right now, I get to speak to one of the most beloved performers in the history of Xtreme Pro Wrestling and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the one, this is the only, this is the incomparable Homeless Jimmy. How are you, sir?
Wow, thank you. I don't think I've heard such a great introduction.
You're welcome.
You should be a host of some sort, you know? That's pretty good. I like it.
Thanks, bro. Always get a few compliments on my intros. But Jimmy, the first question usually on the show is, how did you become a wrestling fan before you got into the wrestling business?
Well, when I was young, I was born here in the United States, California, Los Angeles area. You sink into little suburbs, and I was in North Hollywood. And my aunt's neighbor had a young boy, and he had shared, custody of this boy. And so I would only see him on the weekends. And we would play because he was in our next door neighbor's yard, you know, it was our yard together kind of deal. So we became real good friends. And he said, "Hey, do you want to watch wrestling with my dad?" And I was like, "What's wrestling?" And so I got permission, you know, I told my aunt where I was at, went in their house, and that was it. I saw Hulk Hogan running around and Macho Man and Undertaker and all these people coming alive at that time. You know what I mean? I was like bedazzled, and I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I think I was like 5 years old. I was about 5 years old when about that time.
Wow.
And it was a dream come true to become a pro wrestler. I've been told I can't do it because I was too short, too small. You know, wrestlers are big, humongous guys, which was true. Very true. But in all honesty, with my skill in martial arts, and a history of mine I went to Israel, and I lived in Israel for 12 and a half years, and still wanted to be a pro wrestler. You know, that was my dream, you know. So, but I ended up getting into martial arts because there was no wrestling. So I got into something else that was going to help bring me up in this world without being picked on by the big dog. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I'm a little Chihuahua, I better learn how to fucking bite real hard.
Yeah,
that's the dog-eat-dog world. Once you get the fact of that, then you know where you're going in life. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and so you got to bulk up and you got to learn how to take care of yourself. And so I did martial arts, and then I went into the Israeli army, and I learned a lot of craft and skills there, which exceeds the normal everyday person. And then and then in 1995, I came back to the States, and I went and saw a gentleman that I knew as my dad. He was basically like an adopted dad when I first 5 years of my life, grew up with him and his family. He was like, "So what do you want to do now that you're back?" And I said, "I want to, I got to find a job and such." And he goes, "No, I know, silly. What's your hobbies? What's your ambition? What's your dreams? What do you want to be when you grow up?" You know, I was like, "I don't know. I want to find a wrestling school. I want to be a pro wrestler." And he was like, "Pro wrestling? What makes you say that?" And I said, "I wanted to be that since I was a knee high to a grasshopper." And you know, the old saying. And he laughed because, you know, that is an old saying. And I remembered it as a kid growing up. I still remembered that when I was a kid. That's probably something he used to tell me, you know, "You're knee high to a grasshopper," or whatever. So He goes, that's funny you say that, because he says, you remember my nephew Darren? And I was like, kind of. You know, I was 5 when I left his house and went and lived with my mom and my aunt somewhere else. You know what I mean? And so, and then moving to Israel, I was away from him for 12 and a half years. So I didn't really remember his family, you know, so to speak, because I was real young, taken away. And then so I went to this wrestling. He says he teaches wrestling here. Darren, he teaches wrestling here. And sorry, I mumbled there for a minute because I'm trying to reminisce, you know. But, it's a big story of why I want to become. It's not just why, or you know what I mean. The whole process, it was like magic. My dad saying, "Well, you know what? My nephew teaches wrestling out here. You should go and see his show." So that first weekend, I was there on a Wednesday. I went to see him on a Wednesday. I came back from Israel in early '95, right? And that Wednesday, I got there on a Sunday or a Monday. Wednesday, I went to see my dad. And then Saturday, I went to a wrestling show. You know what I mean? It was like pushed right into the door, you know? And so we reintroduced ourselves, me and my cousin. And he was like, well, watch the show, you know, and let me know how you like it. So I watched the show, and comes back after we waited until fans left, kind of deal. And I stuck around, and he came out of the locker room and he said, so how'd you like it? I said, I loved it. He said, when do you want to start? I said, yesterday. And that was it. The next Wednesday was a class, and then they had the show on, they used to have shows on Thursdays for some reason. They're in front of crowd shows were on a Thursday night, which was everybody thought was silly, but that was Fern Langdon school, Slammers wrestling school. And so that was it. I started from there. I started training, and you know, history is it's been 26 years now, or 27, going on 27 years, I think, right?
Yeah.
95 to 27 years. You know, that's a long time. I retired in 2020.
Yeah.
So, but I'll let you get on with your question. Sorry, man. I'll ramble on if you want me to, but that's that was pretty much how I got into the business, from wanting to be a pro wrestler, you know.
Yeah,
that's from 5 years old up to there. That was my stair, how I went pretty much gradually.
Yeah, excellent, bro. Thanks for sharing all that. You know, it's always interesting to hear about the journey from the first time you saw it, the bug bites you, and then you've got all these years to wait to get there, and then finally it's happening. So I find those it's charming.
I didn't really wait. I ended up training in a way, because I did, my first thing that I did was judo. Yeah. Then I went on to, I did a little bit of judo. And then when we moved to another place in Israel, because my mom moved around a lot for some reason, so we jumped around from place to place. But one place I learned judo, and then a few years later I did karate, and then I did some kind of Shaolin kung fu, but it was freehand. They didn't teach you the katas like they do. You know what a kata is?
No.
In karate, they have segments of moves. It's called a kata.
Okay.
If you ever see it, they go into. You ever seen them in the kung fu movies, Bruce Lee movies, where they're going ha ha, and then they turn and they go ha ha, and then they do another move and stuff. So those are called katas. It's segments of movements of, you know, teaching. It's basically doing the ABCs, but each move you're doing, trying to perfect that move.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So you've got all this background. You start training to become a professional wrestler as well. Time wears on. When does the point come where you meet Rob Black, or you become involved with XPW? How does that all come about? And tell me a little bit about the creation of the Homeless Jimmy character.
All right. So there I'm training with my cousin Darren. He went under the alias of Dynamite D. He was the crippler at the time. He was one of the heels, one of the bad guys, you know. and he was also the school's teacher. And so he's doing shows in front of live audiences. They had several hundred people in the audiences in several places here in California. So it wasn't a small, fed for back in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Slammers Wrestling School was around for a long time. They had a lot of good names go in and out of that school. But after a while, me and the owner didn't get along, and I ended up going out and wanting to venture and find different companies to work for as a pro wrestler, and Vern wasn't very happy about stuff like that anyway, so we cut ties. And just then my cousin broke ties with the school too, and calls me up and said, "Hey, I want to start my own thing. You want to join?" I said, "Hell yeah." So we ended up doing a company called SCCW, Southern California Championship Wrestling. And we had several shows, we had a lot of good characters, a lot of people in and out, respectfully, we did like intermingle with other companies / schools out in a different town of ours, Simi Valley. So it was kind of like a cool, family style wrestling, circuit going around here. And then one day we had a big show, and we wanted to do our pay-per-view, our year's thing or whatever it was. We had Yokozuna from the WWE or WWF back then, and the Honky Tonk Man. Those were the big names at the time. And so we had a big show there at UCLA, which is a big college here in California, UCLA. So we actually had one of their tennis courts and turned it into a wrestling show. And that's where Rob Black met my cousin and said, "Hey, I'm big fan, whatever." They did their little schmooze, and one thing led to another, handshake and money here and there. And they said, my cousin said, "Well, if I sell my school, all my guys get a 2-year contract with this company, so-called company that you're going to start building." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Yeah, sure." So here we are. We're now bought into a company called XPW. They bring in other people. Some people I've known from other schools and stuff like that. Some other names were being brought in and out. And then the big surprise was Big Dick Dudley from ECW was going to be there.
Yeah.
But hush, nobody's supposed to know this. It's a big secret, Cool. All right. So we're sitting in this building with our ring set up in it, and it was actually a porn company.
Yeah.
We walk into the building, and it's like there's sets and there's walls of DVDs and stuff. It had a warehouse and everything. So we're in a porn set / warehouse in California. And so that was like what the hell is going on? So we're sitting all in this big room. Rob Black comes in finally, after we're soaking up everything. There's t-shirts and everything else going on. And he was like, "All right." He said, "All of you guys here," he said, "got a 2-year contract, but after that, there's no promises. There's nothing, obligations, no nothing, because this is going to rise to the top. This is going to be the big kahuna. This is going to be the running for the next spot," which at the time was WWE, WCW, ECW. And then Combat Zone started the same time as us, but neither one of us got the publicity. We both got it at the same time. Yeah. XPW and CZW, Combat Zone Wrestling, were their level and didn't know it yet. Yeah. Basically, we were rising to the top just as as we started. You know what I mean? But not jumping forward. So yeah, all of you guys are gonna be here. You know, you got a job for 2 years, whatever. Some of you, we're gonna change your names and stuff. You know, we got some ideas here. We'll throw you stuff. And so we're like, okay. So we go in and work out in the gym in the squared ring area. And Rob comes out and he's discussing with who he wants as his side people, which Kevin Kleinrock, phenomenal person, phenomenal. I can't put him higher on the marquee in this business. He should be somewhere. You know what? He's better off where he's at than working for people that do shit like what's going on now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For whatever it is, other companies, I don't know. You know, but back to the XPW, he was definitely one of the higher ups in that company. You know, he ran shit. He made things happen. I'm allowed to cuss on this, right?
Of course.
All right. Cool. But yeah, so they're thrown out. People had, you know, their gimmicks and stuff like that. So you're asking about that, right? You said to reminisce on that point.
Yeah.
Well, at first glance, I guess Rob Black didn't like me from what I understood from a couple people that were right there next to him. And, you know, when I believe somebody over what you say, that's just the gist of it. So I guess, you know, he said, what are we going to do with this short, fat fuck, right? About me. And mind you, right now I'm at 206 or 8 pounds right now. I had to lose a lot of weight because I gained a lot of weight. I was 234 pounds not too long ago. But then I started having issues with my health, and I was like, well, I better lose some weight because according to the charts, I'm obese. You know. But I was about 210, you know, around there when he first saw me. So I don't think I was that fat. Short, yes, I can't help it. You know what I mean? String me upside down. I heard that worked. You know, vertebrae a little bit, gain an inch or two, but that's the best I could do, you know. But it was like, all right, you know, they didn't know what to do with my name at the time. And time came up, the first show was going to come about, and I was getting kind of worried because I didn't think they were going to come up with anything for me, you know what I mean? And then Rob comes up and he goes, hey, how about if you do a neo-Nazi gimmick?
Fuck.
Shave your head, get you all cleaned up, come out there and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't think that's going to work. And he said, why not? I said, because my family is Jewish. And I don't think they'll appreciate it. And I guarantee you a lot of my family will be there in support of your show.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm not gonna do any Hail Hitlers or Mein Kampfs or any of that shit. Sorry. Like fuck, you know, whatever. Back to the drawing board, right? Then they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, we got this gimmick. We want you to start rehearsing verses from the Bible, and you're going to be one of the altar boys. You're going to be either Luke or you're going to be Matthew." I think it was Matthew and Luke, the altar boys. I don't know if you knew them from any time.
Yeah.
So, well, I was supposed to be one of those altar boys. and for some reason, thank you, I had an obsession with tattoos that were skulls. And Rob was like, well, at one point we want Jimmy to be shirtless, or he didn't call me Jimmy at the time. He says, we want him to be shirtless. And, you know, how's that going to work with his tattoos, blah, blah, blah. So I heard him arguing over that. And then one day, I think it was the week of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're standing there again. Kevin Kleinrock. It was what's his name? Patrick Hernandez, which was the referee, the main referee, White Trash Johnny Webb was there.
Yeah.
Because he was actually somehow he's a genius with computers and stuff, like whatever, I guess, you know, doing podcasts and stuff. So he did a lot of the editing for them. And so he was there with Rob, obviously part of his little group, right? And it's like, so what are we gonna do with this guy, right? And White Trash Johnny Webb goes, well, you know, he's kind of a homeless guy. He jumps from bed to bed, you know, from couch to couch, lives in people's, you know, car, whatever. He's here and there, which was kind of true. I did sleep on, you know, my aunt's couch, my grandma's, you know, and when I first got back from Israel, I was 23 and I was just bouncing around, you know, doing the odd end jobs to make money and go to a wrestling school. You know what I mean? So I did that for a long time, and that's what he said. But and then Rob's eyes got big, and he goes, "Yeah," he said, "We're gonna call him Jimmy the homeless guy," right? And that was it. From there, it stuck. You know, they called me Homeless Jimmy, or Jimmy the homeless guy, and they actually wrote it in their books. You know, Jimmy the homeless guy. And it wasn't until I think towards almost, you know, the middle to end of my time with XPW that the fans were really liking me, and they were like, they didn't want to go Jimmy the homeless guy, Jimmy the homeless, so they started going Homeless Jimmy, Homeless Jimmy. And so I took on the Homeless Jimmy role. That's who I represented. That's who I was for, you know, the 20 some years after that. You know what I mean?
Awesome, bro.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came about. I really loved the vignettes and what was put together with the background of the character. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And who was the girl that played the girlfriend in these vignettes?
The girlfriend in the vignettes, the story of Homeless Jimmy, she was just one of Rob Black's girls.
Yeah.
And she of course did, I guess, porn.
Right.
She wasn't like a major star. She just probably did maybe one or two, and then they were like, hey, we'll use you. Because I mean, unfortunately, the business of porn, they have thousands and thousands of men and women that do that. You know what I'm saying? And so not everybody's going to be a superstar, like, you know, whatever. So she was just another person that was probably on maybe one or two things. And then they asked her if she wanted to play this part with me. And then that was it, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know her from nothing, you know. It was a cordial thing going on, and the story was cool because it was close to my real life story. I didn't have a girlfriend that went into porn, but I was in the military.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where they got the whole the Twitch. You know, I created that actually watching Friday when what's his name? Smokey was in the barn and he was talking about doing the meth or whatever it was. He was looking around and he started, you know, brushing himself off. So I would come out and I would start doing the scratch and brush things off that weren't there. You know what I mean? I came out with the shopping cart. I'm the first one ever to use that. You know, if you ever see any wrestling and somebody's getting thrown on a shopping cart or anything, I'm the innovator of all that. You know, everybody takes a credit. There's a lot of people that take credit for things, you know, like Abdullah the Butcher, I think, is one of the first that did the fork.
Yeah.
You know, it's fork in your mouth. And I got forked by Abdullah the Butcher, which was cool. But yeah, you know, that was a cool time in my career, was getting to wrestle against Abdullah the Butcher. And that was for an XPW episode. Yeah, so that was one of the highlights of my career, was wrestling against him. Another show was Kevin Kleinrock actually had kind of the top reigns without XPW, and they had the XPW Cold Day in Hell, I
Yep.
think it was.
Yep.
Right, the Cold Day in Hell, and that had Terry Funk, you know, as a special guest referee, and him raising my hand in victory. That's probably that just right there completed my journey. You know what I mean? Right there, I could have retired then and been happy with being where I was at in the business. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. I wanted to scale back a little bit to these early days. You compete at what I believe at Reseda Country Club on the 31st of July 99, the first ever XPW match on the first show. So I like to ask about 99 kind of era for XPW with you guys, because it doesn't really get talked about a lot. All the big incidents get talked about mostly, but I just want to ask what it was like working in your early career with guys like John Cronus, Axel Rotten, Chris Candido in early 2000, 1999, that kind of era. How did that help you as a performer working with these guys?
Oh my gosh, I can't begin to tell you how much of a thrill it was for me to work with these individuals and get to know them personally. Gosh, I'm going to start with the best in my mind was, or the closest that I got with was John Cronus. And he was probably the best person that I could have come across in that era from that place. You know, him and Alex Rizzo, which was Big Dick Dudley. Those two were just like, I mean, they saw something in me, and they knew they didn't hesitate to tell me that. And they you know, we had some of the best matches, and you know, I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that, you know, when you give everything into what you love doing, you know, other people see that, and they see that you're there wanting to do this. You know what I'm saying? That you're giving your all. It doesn't matter. They tell you to jump. You know what I mean? And so that's how I was taught, and you know, they all saw that. And so I actually got to hang out with Big Dick Dudley in my apartment. You know what I mean? John Cronus and I actually roommated in Ohio, which is the East Coast part of the States. Yeah, I roommated with him for a little while, you know, or he with me, because it was my trailer, you know, but I had a spare room on the other end, and, you know, he stayed with me for a while and hung out and did some shows in Ohio. He's a crazy fun dude, man. He was a good person. Sorely missed. My life would probably be a lot different had they all been alive, because I'm going to say this on your podcast. I don't really always mention it. You know, if I do, you know, this is something that a lot of people don't know, because at the time when TNA was coming up, and there were some other shows, I think the Wild Samoans have their show. I can't remember right now. Sometimes I get brain farts, you know. Ear shots in the head, you know, so many dings in the head. I can't remember all the companies' names, but you know, the Samoans have their school not far, Knox Pro.
Yeah.
Knox Pro. So at the time when I was about to leave XPW, Big Dick Dudley was like, listen, brother, I want you to go with me to one of these shows. You know, I want you to be part of this show. I want you to leave XPW and come with me and start this company. Big names are going to be there. He said, this is going to be a big deal. You just can't say nothing to anybody. It's a big, big deal. And he didn't really tell me what it was. So, I mean, for all I know, I could have been part of TNA when they first started. You know what I mean? I would have jumped ship with him. I was ready to leave XPW anyways. So I would have been part of another big segment had Big Dick Dudley passed away too. And then that was like, well, was a big dip for me, kind of thing. You know, I had a hard time because I just lost two good friends at the time, close to each other. You know,
Yeah.
so it was a that was a could be highlight of my life. You know what I mean? That was a what would have happened. You know, one of those questions in life. You know.
Yeah, I understand it, and I'm sorry for your loss. You know, because I can tell.
It's anybody that was a wrestling fan that loved ECW. I mean, those guys were big time ECW guys, you know, and then working with what's his name, Axel Rotten. Working with him was phenomenal. He was such a good worker, such a funny person. You know what I mean? It's hard to keep a straight face when you're in the ring with people like that. You know what I mean? Like he would have been like what's oh shoot, I don't even try and reference an actor to who he was, but he'd be like one of those life of the party kind of guys. Axel Rotten.
Yeah.
Not when you're in the ring with him though. He's pretty brutal with you, but he still has a good time doing it. He'll beat your head in, but still, you know, tell you a joke in the middle of the ring. It's like, what, dude? You punched me a couple of times. Why are you telling me a joke now? You know.
But speaking of, you know, situations like that, 27th of May 2000 at the Strongbow Stadium in Bakersfield. You mentioned it a little bit before, working with Abdullah the Butcher so early into your wrestling time and career in XPW. Tell me a little bit more about that experience with him.
With Abdullah?
Yeah.
Well, again, another great legend in the business. And I was actually kind of, you know, not intimidated at first, but didn't know what to make of him.
Yep.
And then very, you know, soft-spoken, direct, you know what I mean, person. He's you know, nice, very whatever, respectful. And then, but out in the ring, again, it's a different thing, you know, putting on a show. You got to make it look good, and I'm going to toss that shopping cart into your head, you know, without even letting you know. That's the type of person Abdullah Butcher is. I mean, he was a very, very good person, though. I mean, it was an honor working with him, and again, somebody that treated me out of somebody that I had looked up to in these magazines and DVDs that I would stumble across when I was a teen in Israel. Imagine how hard it, you know, it's probably just maybe as hard, if not harder, than finding stuff in Australia. You know what I mean? It was a commodity, you know, some of the stuff. But I did catch the ECW shows and stuff, so I grew up watching this stuff with friends, and I'd wrestle around with them and say, hey, this is who I want to be one day. And they would laugh and whatever. And, you know, they believed in me, but, you know, it was still a joke with them because, you know, when you're a kid, you don't think about it. You know, they didn't know that eventually they are going to lose me to coming here. I haven't seen my friends in Israel for some of them for 26, 27 years now.
Wow.
That I grew up with for for years.
Yeah.
There's the last group of friends that were like my best friends were friends for 7 years growing up, you know, and then I just disappeared, and now they're still all friends. They're all still a tight crowd,
Right.
You know, so it's almost time for me to go and visit my friends before I have to visit my maker. You know what I mean?
I think so too. That would be a good idea. Another thing, bro, that I've brought up to everybody that was at this particular show, because I want to put a video together with everybody's perspectives and stories of this day. It's July 16th. It's Heatwave 2000. I've had the Messiah's point of view. I've had Larry Rivera's point of view. I've had Chris Kloss's point of view from what happened that day, and also a plethora of guys from ECW, New Jack, etc. I wanted to get your perspective on what actually happened on this day, because from a lot of different people's sides of the story, you were whooping some ass, I suppose you could say, in the parking lot. Could you tell me a little bit about this day and what took place from your side of the story?
Well, you know, when the whole thing started, it got overheated between Rob Black and Paul Heyman, you know, and they started getting into arguments about the name and everything else, you know, us copying them and you know, big deal. So if we were doing hardcore deathmatch stuff, what makes that yours? You know, there's no copy infringement, and we're not on your territory. We're on a different side, you know. And one of the things that Paul Heyman said was, "We'll never go to the East Coast. We're West Coast. You know, I mean, we'll never go to the West Coast. We're only East Coast. You know, whatever. Blah 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 blah." That was what he used to say back in the day. And then XPW comes around. Now you're going to do a show not only in America, or not in America, but not only in California, but in our specific area that we work at. You know what I mean? So you're trying to do it specifically to, you know, show us up or whatever, you know what I mean, close to the time that we were doing our shows, you know what I mean, using venues that we may have used or wanted to use or whatever. So Rob Black bought everybody tickets, mostly you know, not everybody, like the ring crew and all that stuff, but it was Chris Kloss, it was Kid Chaos, Supreme, myself, I was at the end, Christy Mist was at the other end with between Chaos and Chris Kloss, I believe. I have a picture of it. Somebody took a picture from the top state of the place down at us when the actual fight started. So I actually have that picture somewhere in my mess of stuff that's lingering around with me. But yeah, so we're there in the front row, you know, minding our own business. We sat around and watched match after match. Some other guys came out and taunted us, you know, which whatever, it doesn't bother me. Sticks and stones, right? And then the final match was Tommy Dreamer and Just Incredible, and it was a barbed wire hanging from the rooftop, and you had to climb a ladder. Yeah, I'd miss what's her name? I was gonna say Missy Hyatt, but
Francine.
Francine. Well, yeah, Francine. Thank you.
Yep.
So Francine, and just barely in the beginning of the match started arguing, you know what I mean? And Christy Mist and Francine started arguing, and you could see Just Incredible say something to Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy Dreamer looks over at us, you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, the girls start fighting, and the locker room comes bursting open. All these guys come running out. They're like ready. They're at the door ready, right? Because there's a shitload of these big ass guys running out at us, right? And Supreme, when the security started grabbing at Christy, Supreme was like, "Don't be touching a woman like that," you know what I mean? Respect. So he pushed, and I saw this. That was the first, when he grabbed Christy, Supreme pushed. Next thing you know, the shit started hitting the fan. The wrestlers are running out, and hands are being swung. Now, everybody had XPW shirts, right? I had my Homeless Jimmy shirt, so I didn't have to turn my shirt around because they didn't even really notice it being a XPW. They just didn't want XPW shirts being worn. So all the guys had to either take, whatever, have their shirts out. And when the shit started happening, they flipped their shirts over and started doing the signs and stuff like that. So security starts pulling us out. Being military, I backed up from everybody. When the security guard grabbed me, I was like, hey, I don't have anything to do with this. I'm not doing nothing. You didn't see me do shit, right? I had my hands up. So he just let me go because I didn't have the XPW shirt on. I had a gray Homeless Jimmy shirt. It wasn't even a good looking Homeless Jimmy shirt. It was a shitty one. But next thing you know, I see Paul Heyman grabbing one of our guys back and like was hitting him over in the corner. So I started to go that way, and then the security started grabbing him again, and Paul Heyman was going back after them, and I grabbed onto Paul Heyman's arm, and he was like, who the fuck? And I was like, he was like, let me go. And then as soon as I kind of let him go, I turned around and their big security guard, the one with the mustache, the kind of like the cowboy hair, big guy, but socks me like I see this fist coming right at me like that. Boom. I sat down on the chair because he's a big guy and he got me good and unexpected. So, but I stood right back up. I said, don't do that again. And he was like, don't touch Mr. Heyman. I was like, all right, I won't touch him. So I start running up the stairs and they started closing the doors. And I jumped through and slithered through a crowd of people. And I got outside. And just as I stepped outside, I turned around and Paul Heyman was standing there and he had some people in front of him, like a barricade of people. And then he was standing there. And then Chili Willy was behind him. And when I turned around, he was like, you'll never be in this business ever again, blah, 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 blah. Come here, I'll hit you. And I was like, go ahead, hit me. I said, we're in LA. If you hit me, there's going to be cameras everywhere. And he was like, doing this at me. I was like, go ahead, hit me. And then Chili Willy hit me. And that was like the first punch I got. So just as I started to go at him, my buddy Tone, which is this comic book artist, and he's a big guy. When I met him, I thought he was a Samoan, but he was a big Mexican guy. One of my best friends. He's one of the kindest people too. He's a comic book artist, and he picks me up and puts me up against the wall, right? And he's holding me there, and he's like, Jimmy, don't do anything. Don't do anything stupid. I said, Tone, I won't. Let me go. He said, don't do anything stupid. And then when I'm looking across the street, I see a crowd of people and they're getting walloped by these big guys. Some of these guys were fucking huge. Big Sal Graziano is a big guy, right? And they're beating on guys and stuff. And then I looked over from the right over to the left, and I see my cousin, my teacher, my mentor, my best friend, on the floor. Big Sal Graziano's stomping on his head. Jack Victory's kicking him from one side, and Balls Mahoney stomping him from the other side. So three guys are beating down on him, right? And these guys are big. I'm telling you, these are big guys. I said, Tone, let me go. And Tone lets me go, and I go running across the street. But when I see it, I saw Chili Willy beating some kid like this, right? And he's a big black guy, a big African-American guy. I'm running across the street, jumped up like Superman, boom, right in the side of his head. I think I knocked him out for a few minutes at least, right? Turned around, run over there, saw grabbed my cousin off the floor, picked him up like a sack of potatoes, threw him over my shoulder. He went flying. That's when, and I had long hair at the time, right? Excuse me here.
That's right.
Excited talking. Give me 1 second. All right. So Big Sal grabs me, and his hands were like two of mine. So his hand is grabbing me, right? I got one hand pulling all this right here. My arm goes this way. The next arm goes that way. And I got all three of them punching me from three sides. So I got Big Sal hold my head down, punching me. I got Balls Mahoney punching me here, and I got Jack Victory punching me here. So I grabbed my right arm, which is my strongest arm, pulled that out, grabbed Balls Mahoney by the beard, yanked him into an arm lock, right? So I had his head here, and I started wailing on him there as I'm getting punched. But see, when you got more than one person hitting you, it's better, because especially the big guys, they're hitting each other. They're just walloping. They can hit you. You know what I'm saying? If you know how to tuck down and stuff. So I'm walloping on him. Next thing you know, everybody moves back, and this little African American black security guard with mace jumps in everybody and like, get back, get back, get back. And so everybody kind of dispersed, and I was up against the fence, and he's got his little mace in my face, and he goes, get back. And I go, you're telling me to get back? I said, there's 5. Oh yeah, I forgot. When I was down there, just before I pulled my arm out, I felt somebody trying to yank my eye out, and it was Chili Willy behind me.
Fuck.
So he was trying to gouge my eye out when I was doing that, because I actually used to have a picture. It was a Polaroid that they gave me from the precinct when I had to do a testify, whatever it was. You know, I had to sit there and give my shit. And yeah. So yeah, I was getting clawed here and punched there and stuff, but they couldn't knock me down. That was the fun part of that. And I got my licks in when I finally pulled Balls Mahoney in. And the funny thing about Balls Mahoney is years later, it was not that many years later, I would say around 2002, I met Balls Mahoney at a wrestling show in Dover, Delaware. And I was with a good friend of mine, the Delaware Assassin. He actually had like a company that he worked at and whatever, worked for, owned. I don't remember the whole spiel, but when I was living in the East Coast, I went and worked out there a lot. And I went to this show, and Balls Mahoney was there. And my friends were like, hey, do us a big favor. Don't start any shit. Please don't get into any confrontation. I said, don't worry about it. You know, I'm cool, you know, whatever. And walked into the bar, and I saw him sitting there pretty much by himself. And I was like, hey, how you doing? He was like, good. He looks at me, and I go, you know who I am? And he goes, yeah, I heard. And I said, do we have any problems? And he said, no, got no problems. I said, cool. And that was it. That was we squashed the deal kind of deal. It was all right. You know, that's the thing is, you know, if you're working for a company and you have to do what you have to do, you know what I mean? But now you're not working for that company, and it is what it is, you know?
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
Excellent, bro. Thank
Funny
you.
thing is, when we got separated, right then, after the security guard got the spray in my face and stuff, he's gonna mace me, and I'm telling him, get the hell out of my way. I said, let me go. And then I was like, come on, big guys, you couldn't put little me down, you know, come on. I was egging him on, and then a limousine comes screeching right there. The door opens. Chris Kloss, Kevin Kleinrock were in a limousine. They were like, Jimmy, jump in, or we're leaving you here right now. And I was like, I Supermaned into the limousine and took off. And that was some from a movies, you know, that you say, what the hell just happened? And none of that was orchestrated. That was all a shoot, you know, fight, build up, you know, all that stuff. Something that you couldn't replicate it again, because it was all true stuff. But yeah, there it is, big story of the century. You know what I mean?
Oh, your perspective is fantastic, bro, and it does.
I wish I would have brought it. You know, if we were talking about that. I should have known that we would talk about it, but I have a newspaper. I'll send you a picture of it if you want on this thing on our messenger.
Sure.
But it's a newspaper, local. Well, it was what was it? LA Weekly.
Yeah.
It was a local newspaper for LA, and full frontal, my picture, blood all over my face, long hair, you know, my Jimmy outfit and stuff. And it said homeless Jimmy and others, you know, da 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 da. It was like a big thing kind of deal. And a lot of those magazines like published that story too, you know, Wow magazine and all the deathmatch magazines. So
Yeah.
there was a time, you know, I discuss it with my girlfriend sometimes. She was like, well, you know, you weren't really there. I'm like, yeah, I was. I was. We were running there with ECW at one time with ratings.
Yeah.
Our ratings were there with ECW. So there was only two others above us. There was WCW and WWE. So we were like fighting for the third spot in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
It's a shame. It's a shame that it got cut down by stupidity. You know what I mean?
It is a massive shame because the potential was there, especially with the show Go Funk Yourself, which was 6 days after a Heatwave. This was like a massive high point for XPW. The show itself was fantastic. Although you nearly got hurt pretty bad. I believe you were taking a German suplex off the top rope to go through a table or something like that, and you nearly missed the table, or you did miss the table. And then after this show, there was
the back of my head actually hit the table.
Right.
The back of my head hit the table, and when I flipped, when I went into the full flip, my shins hit the table too.
Right.
So I hit, you know, it was a double whammy there. But yeah. Good times. Good times.
This was a high point for the company, and then there was a massive gap. I guess the LA Sports Arena was no longer available. There was venue issues. That's why a lot of XPW television during that time had no actual in-ring action. But you filled that gap with the tour for FMW. Right. And you spent a bit of time there with Supreme, excuse me, beginning October 7th, 2000, and you worked there until October 29th at Croken Hall for FMW Power Splash 2000, where with a big matchup with yourself and Supreme there. Could you tell me about your experience in FMW? It must have been a dream come true to be able to work in Japan.
Well, you know, going back again to childhood, I grew up watching a lot of Bruce Lee movies, and I envisioned one day being able to go to the Orient. Mostly it was, I thought, Japan, but come to find out Bruce Lee was actually Chinese, and a lot of that was probably in China. But I was ignorant at, you know, young age, whatever. But then yeah, it's cool. I was supposed to go and work for Onita first. He ended up calling me up and wanting to you know, negotiate stuff, but unfortunately he called and Rob answered, and Rob said that well, you know, Jimmy has to lose because he's supposed to be on a losing streak, so he can't win any matches. And Onita's like, what? He said, that doesn't sound right. You know, that's not cool. And then he was like, you know, he says, you're not going to, you know, can't tell me what to do in my own company. He said, well, then you can't use Jimmy, because I was under contract with XPW. And so when FMW found out that he negotiated and didn't get the deal, FMW called up, and Kevin Kleinrock answered that call. And basically he was saying, well, it's got to be the same deal, you know, whatever. but here's an offer. Why don't you take Supreme with you, you know, as a package deal, and make, you could make them as a tag team, and Supreme could lose, or Supreme could win the match. Homeless Jimmy could lose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they're like, okay, that sounds good. And so they flew us out, and we had both of us started with singles matches. I lost mine, and Supreme won his match. Then they tagged us up, and we had a singles tag match, but it was for the number one contender match. It was kind of like a number one contender thing that we did. And the next show after that, we went for the titles, and they gave, and we won the titles. So, that was kind of my Rob, I have to lose all the time, but look what now what I got a belt, big deal, you know what I mean? So what did Supreme did the roll up. But if you look at a picture, I got a picture of us coming back with the belts the first night, and I was all bloody, and Supreme's just wrapping his arm, whatever. He's got a hard head, so it's harder to get him to bleed.
That must have been a real fun experience to experience that with him.
Oh yeah, it was. And you had to earn that shit over there. They actually put a hurt. Like I said, I got pictures I could share of where I'm walking back. I got the next day I had the title belt on my shoulder, and I have the two black eyes. They put a hurting on me for that, But hey, if I had to earn it, I earned it, right?
That's it, bro. And speaking of earning it, you certainly.
Just to let you know, it's a little, you could look it up. I guess we were the first Americans to hold the hardcore tag team championship belts for FMW. We were the first Americans to ever have that belt. So
that's pretty sweet accolade.
Me and Supreme, God rest his soul. He, we had that. That was definitely got us up there in that marquee area,
Definitely. He's certainly somebody that is an infamous kind of figure in XPW's history, the king of the death match, as many people may know him as. And I wanted to kind of segue into talking about these kind of death match tournaments, and just ask you a little bit about that and what kind of preparation you have to go through mentally to prepare for the day of a deathmatch tournament, whether it's the king of the death match, whether it's like a Crimson Cup or something like that. Is there a different atmosphere in the air for you when it's a day of something of this magnitude? How do you mentally prepare for something like that?
Well, I mean, I think it might be a little different for me than most people, but I believe having to learn martial arts first and getting into the mindset of stuff like that, because with my friends we used to sit there and I would take my nunchucks and I would wallop the sides of my glute, or what are they called? Not glutes, my lats.
Yeah.
The sides of the V part.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I could take a shot right there from like whatever, you know what I'm saying? I would sit there and whack those on my my lats, for endurance buildup, you know what I'm saying? So we do a lot of stuff, punching boards and doing like that. So I was built up different, I think. I didn't have the size that most people do. Could you imagine if I was bigger? I'd be just a total beast. But with the rest of the beasts, I'm a little guy, but I could tell you, I could definitely go with the best of them. And so going into deathmatch stuff was kind of like easy peasy for me. I was already learning how to take chair shots and stuff when I first started my first lessons, in slammers. Unfortunately, they didn't really have classes for beginners because I was the only one there. You know what I mean? So I had to be in the class with the other kids or the other guys that were already well taught. So they were doing chair shots, and I was like, all right, my first day, chair shots, and then I learned how to take bumps and stuff like that. But yeah, the only thing that I always kind of worried about at first was thumbtacks. And yeah, they're not as bad. I wouldn't do a barefoot thumbtack match because that stuff's dangerous, when you're messing with the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
That leads to a lot of health issues and stuff like that. You hit the wrong nerve, the wrong thing, the wrong way with the not so sanitized, pin.
Yeah.
Your feet and your head are two of the most valuable parts of our bodies. You know what I mean? Apart from the heart, of course, and the brain is our dome, our center point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only thing that ever bothered me. I pretty much didn't care what it was. Throw me in it. You know what I mean? I did glass, 10-inch, 20-inch nails. Or 10-inch nails. Yeah, never did any cactus like that,
Yeah.
That's probably another, I might think twice about doing a cactus. But I've seen some crazy ass stuff out there, man.
Me too, especially in the last few years.
I did some crazy stuff too, but throughout the years of deathmatch, I've seen some gnarly stuff.
I've seen things like guys getting slammed into a tank full of piranhas. And
yeah, I like to leave the animals out of it.
Me too.
Just because it's senseless. It really isn't. I mean, first of all, piranhas don't bite you when they're in captivity anyways. That's already a myth. That you could have a fish tank full of piranha and they won't take a nibble at you, unless they're really, really hungry and you're bleeding, maybe.
Yeah,
I've seen enough of that on animal shows and stuff to know they don't do that, so it's just you're just messing around with nature for no reason just because you can. But a lot of the animal stuff started in the Orient, in Japan mostly, doing fish tank stuff and whatever. They don't care, because that's mostly what they eat anyways all the time. So what's wasting an animal? I'm kind of funny like that. I'll eat them, but I won't, I don't know about torturing them,
Absolutely, bro. I wanted to kind of talk about what led to your exit from XPW. I believe August 25th, 2002, if I'm correct, was your last performance.
Probably know that better than I do.
You worked in an 8-man battle royal on that show, but what led to you deciding to leave XPW?
Well, it was a long time coming because when I first heard about Rob Black's bullshit, and I'm gonna say it lightly because I don't know, it's a touchy subject, but first person, and I should have listened to him from the very beginning, was Cronus. He came up to me and he said, listen, I want to tell you something, just take it for what it is, but be careful. You need to be careful in this company. He said, because Rob Black just asked me to take your knee out in the match. And he was like, and Cronus was like, what do you mean? And he said, I want you to make sure he's not in the next couple of shows. And he was like, why? He says, Jimmy's a fucking awesome guy and he's a good worker. He says, I don't like him. I don't want him in, and if he's out, he's voiding his contract. And I'm like, well, and then Cronus telling me this, I was like, wow, whatever. And, like I said, I should have probably walked away then. And then shortly after that, we had a show just before, I think it was a Wednesday before that last match. So what was that date?
That date was, sorry,
Battle Royal.
the 25th of August at Damage Inc., an 8-man battle royal, which New Jack won.
Okay. So the Wednesday before that show, we had a small little show in front of, I think it was either 10 or 12 Japanese fans that paid for a exclusive show.
Wow.
And it was only like maybe a handful of matches. It wasn't, very much. I'm sure Rob made a bank on it. You know what I mean? Because they paid special from Japan. They flew in from Japan to watch an XPW show exclusively. So it wasn't on video or anything. And I had a match against Pogo the Clown, and it was in the warehouse where we had shipping stuff and in the ring, because we trained in the ring, but it was also their porn company, you know what I mean? And so there was a conveyor belt out there. And at one point when we were outside, Pogo the Clown took me, which we talked about it, I wasn't afraid of doing it, but he just laid into me. Like, he knocked me out. I was out, unconscious. We're talking about a 6'2", 3, whatever he is. He's a big guy. And he used to tell me, yeah, I'm 419 pounds. We're talking about a big fucking clown.
Yeah.
Right. And he just laid me into that conveyor belt, and it knocked me out. And he lumped me onto the conveyor belt. And at the end of the conveyor belt was the fans and their chairs. So he was like, get out of the way. And he rolled me down the conveyor belt, and I was still unconscious. And then when I came to, and I woke up because my face was bouncing on the conveyor belt, right? I saw a face full of chairs. So I met face first in all these chairs and whatever. And I had a nice big lump on the top of my head from that, like a huge lump. But on with the show, we finished the match and everything. That night, I get a phone call from Pogo telling me, man, I'm so sorry for hurting you in the match. I'm sorry. Rob Black made me do it. He said, if I don't, I'm not in the show anymore, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I was like, really? All right, that sucks. And then we had that last show. I was obligated for it, under contract, you know what I mean? As far as I'm still concerned, I'm still under contract with them. And then New Jack and I were close buddies because he was a stoner, I'm not going to get into anything else because that's what I do. I smoke weed, and I would smoke weed with him the minute he got there. Me and him started smoking weed. So, he's New Jack. If you're on his good side, you got one of the most awesome people to hang around with. He's, again, one of the life of the party kind of guys. And, but once you're in the ring, it's game on. He'll stab you, he'll cut you, he'll brutalize you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't deserve it, like a worker should, you know what I mean? If you're gonna sit there and act like that didn't hurt, then they're gonna make it hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Yeah.
That's what's wrong with some of the business now is, everybody wants to sit there and break shit over their head and, jump into barbed wire and then hooray, look at me. You're taking away from the business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was a good worker. You didn't have to hit me hard to make you look 100%. You know what I mean? Because I knew my job. My job was to make you look like $100 or $1,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so we were there in the room, and he goes, Jimmy, he says, you know what I do, right? And I was like, yeah. And he said, no, right? And I was like, yeah. he goes, says, Rob gave me some money, he says, to take you out tonight because it's your last show. I was like, oh yeah? And he said, yeah. He said, and I'm gonna do it. And I said, okay. And he was like, but he said, I want you to do me this one favor. He says, I'm gonna tell you when it's coming. He said, they got a PlayStation console in there. It's hard as rock. And I'm supposed to hit that sweet spot that you just were crying about with the lump, right? And he says, I'm gonna hit you upside that, you know what I mean, and knock you out. He says, but I'm gonna let you know when it's coming, and I want you to act like I just knocked you the fuck out. And I said, thank you. I said, thank you for that. He said, hey, no hard feelings. He said, you know, you make it look good. You know how it is. And I was like, I 100% know how it is. And that was the last show. That was my last time. I won't work for somebody that's gonna pay people to sit there and hurt you. And the whole Messiah story, I 100% believe that it was Rob Black. 100%. It wasn't him doing it because he's a pussy, just like what do you call it? He'd be like a Jim Jones. He won't force you to fucking eat the pills, but he'll give you the drink to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or Manson, Charles Manson. He'll send all his followers in there to beat your ass or kill you, but he won't do it. That's Rob Black.
Wow. I had no idea about any of that, bro, and I just don't understand what his problem was with you. I don't know.
You didn't know about the Messiah?
I know about that, but I didn't know about him.
Yeah, nobody knows about it. Nobody really knows because I didn't make a big deal about it. I didn't go out there and I should write a book. I should write a book. You know, that's one of the reasons why I don't try and do don't take this the wrong way, because I decided, because Ryan Katz is a really dear friend of mine, and he asked me, so if he gives the okay, you're okay with me, you know what I'm saying? But I tell people after, and I've told Chris Kloss I'm not going to do anything because he's associated with Rob now. You know, they're doing shows again this weekend. I think they have a show.
Yeah.
So, you know, and he called me up trying to ask me if I wanted to come back. And I said, you're stupid. You're crazy. I said, the only match that I want is one against you. Me versus you. We'll do your Golden Gloves. Because he used to tell people that he was a Golden Gloves boxer. I said, get in the ring anytime you want. Me and you, mano a mano. Don't even need referees. I'll knock your ass out.
Understood,
he doesn't
bro.
want to take it. I told him that. I said that on the phone. I was sitting there and my girlfriend was getting upset because I had the window rolled down and the neighbors could hear me. And I was telling them what I'm sorry. It was like, oh, I thought we got over that. I thought we were over all that. You might be over it. And I might have forgiven you enough to not wring your neck or kill you. I forgave you enough, but I won't forget that shit. And I'm not going to sit there and work with somebody that would pay other people to hurt them.
Yeah, I understand, bro.
I would be an idiot. I would be an idiot to work for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's guys that I would want to go back and, you know, I retired in 2020 because I had some, you know, thing in my head. You know, basically I wasn't going to go anywhere. I wasn't going to get to the WWE status, and nor did I really want to, because I'm really not at the caliber of those type of people. You know what I mean? That's a different place. I would be lost in the crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There'd be no spot for me in WWE. Even with the shortest guys that they had, like Rey Mysterio or Daniel Bryanson, you know, or Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could work those kind of guys and probably put some things in my heels, but I wouldn't be able to go anywhere else, you know. I just would have been another mockery like Zach Gowen, you know. You remember Zach Gowen?
Yeah.
The one-legged kid that they threw down the stairs. Brock Lesnar beat him up. That kid is talented. They wouldn't let him do anything. I watched him in Detroit, and he would do backflips off of the top rope with his one leg. He would hop on the ropes and then do a backflip to the outside. This kid was amazing. And to treat him like they did, why would I want to go there? I would be treated the same way.
Absolutely, bro.
And
I,
I heard rumors of other shenanigans going behind backstage. I don't need any of that, you know. I was happy doing deathmatch and hardcore stuff because, you know, it shows you as a different type of person, you know.
yeah, bro. One thing I thought was interesting was that you're actually on the inaugural CZW Tournament of Death against Sick Nick Mondo, but I believe this is the only time you worked for John Zandig.
Yeah,
Why?
we talked about doing other shows. Go ahead. Were
Yeah.
you going to ask another question?
Oh no, I was just going to ask why you didn't work more for CZW.
Just because I moved locations, because when I did their show, I was just about ready to come back to towards California, or ended up moving to Las Vegas. But I was leaving Ohio because it's way too cold. I'm not a cold person. I like the heat, even though I'm sitting here with my truck with my air on. But I like the heat. I would prefer the heat than the cold. And when it snows, that's too much. I don't like that stuff. So I
Fair
ended
enough.
up leaving the area, and you know, I mean, it was just I guess I wasn't at the. If I wasn't going to be there all the time, they weren't going to be able to use me, kind of deal.
Understood. Understood. Did you like working with Nick Mondo?
Oh yeah, I loved working with him.
Yes.
And according to his video, he loved working with me because, you know, we're both I'm really easygoing. You know what I mean? When we got there, they asked me a question and it was a simple, easy, yeah, of course, you know. 'Cause, you know, doing the stuff that I did, you know, you don't hesitate, you just do it.
Yeah, very cool, bro. Getting to
Like
the
the end
tail
of that,
end.
like the end of that match, right?
Yeah.
The match that you were talking about.
Yep.
So the big bump at the end when we were on top of that truck and we went,
Yep.
you know, I went flipped through. I mean, there was no preparation. There's no nothing. There was just a simple, hey, do you want to do this before, you know, at the end of the match? And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's go. Let's do it. Only this one life to live. You know what I mean? That's how I've always been my whole life. You know, I'm not afraid of pretty much anything. I've stuck my hand in and petted a lion in the Jerusalem Zoo in Israel when I was 17. I was
Wow.
16. First time I did it, I was 16. The second time I did it, I was 17. I got a picture. I got a picture of me doing that.
That's really cool. I'd like to see that. I noticed this is just in my research, and I've only got a few questions left here, bro. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, we're doing good. Like I said, I wasn't sure about my phone being in the heat, and then you know, my last one, it went so quick. I had to tell him I would do 2 segments because of it. But this one's holding pretty good charge. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
go ahead.
Yeah, it was after October 2005 until November 2013. In my research, I might be wrong because the internet isn't very reliable sometimes, but in my research, you only wrestled twice in 8 years at XPW Cold Day in Hell, and then also the 10th anniversary show, XPW X, I guess it was what it was called.
Well, here's the thing to that is that I actually moved after 2002. When I moved out to Ohio, it wasn't shortly after that I met Mr. Insanity, Toby Klein. He just got inducted to I think it was GCW, or yeah, one of the companies, CZW. Somebody just inducted him as, you know, hardcore, you know, famous.
I think Deathmatch Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Deathmatch Hall of Fame. So you know that?
Yep.
So when I met Toby, he convinced me to get back into it. You know what I mean? Because I was after working for somebody like that, like Rob, it put a damper on me, and I was about to quit and not ever wrestle ever again. And Toby, Mr. Insanity, basically, you know, we met you know, just by, you know, it was kind of a fluke thing. We just both worked at the same place. He met somebody, you know, whatever. It was just kind of a weird coinkydink, and it got me back into wrestling. And I worked for companies like the Bumpin' Uglies. I can't remember right now, XICW or something like that. It's you know, one of the guys. There's like 2 or 3 companies I worked for in Detroit. And then I did Combat Zone Wrestling. I did another company in Delaware. I did the thing with the Hellaware Assassin and against Madman Pondo and Brain Damage.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I didn't like go to, you know, I didn't hide under a rock all that time. I was actually still active, but just not on the stage where everybody knows where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did JCW too. I did the first gathering. I did the 2005 gathering. 2000, I want to say, well, the last one I did for them was 2019. So I did 3 for them. And then I did one of the Juggalo weekend things that they had. I lost the tip of my finger on that one. It was actually a lot more, but you know, your stuff grows back a little bit. But I had chopped part of my finger right in the beginning of the match. Chewy Martinez hit me with the trash can, and I was down on the stage, and it was actually on a like a stage, you know, where they do plays and stuff. So it's hardwood, you know, hardwood floor and stuff. And then they had a ramp to the ring. Well, I went running back onto the stage at Chewy. He hits me with the trash can. I went down on the floor, and the trash can came down just perfectly and chopped off the tip of my finger right in the beginning of the match. So that was like the very, very first part of the match. Yeah. Continued walking around as blood is just gushing out of my finger, you know.
Man, the shit that all of you pro wrestlers put yourselves through and go through, it's just remarkable. Even when it's not intended, you get your finger or top of your finger chopped off.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about
keep going. You know, I kept going because in the back of my mind, I'm hearing, you know, stories of Mick Foley when he lost his ear. He kept on going. He wrestled. That was an ear. Imagine losing the whole ear, and you got so me with the little finger. I'm like, no, I'll keep going.
You always have to compare it to that.
I even busted my knee during the show. One of the it was October '99 for XPW when I got tossed off of the X. The end of the story with the girlfriend thing.
Yeah,
it was me versus Phenomenal Phil, and he put me up on the top rope and he drop kicked me. Well, when I used to always do this on the monkey bars and stuff, I would, you know, wrap my legs and then go backwards and kind of do sit-ups kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when he did a drop kick, I was going to do one of those things, you know, and then get up on the top rope and then do a drop kick or missile drop kick on him from the top rope, right? So we'd already talked about doing this and stuff. So we went to do it. He turns around. Well, when I went up, when he kicked me, my left leg slipped out of the ropes and I flipped that outside the ring that way, and it hyperextended my knee, and my knee swelled up. But I managed to get back up and climb to the top and do the drop kick and continue that match, and then end up going outside, climbing up on that top of that X, and then getting thrown through the tables with a bum knee. And then when I took my gear off, you know, my knee pads and stuff, my knee swelled up like twice the size, and they did x-rays and MRIs and stuff, and said that I had a minor tear in my ACL and a fracture in my MCL, which is the meniscus disc, the 8-figure disc that's in between your knees that the ligament goes. So they said that what happened was when my ligament tore, it also snapped the bone in my knee. And that was in October of '99. Mind you, that was only a year or so before I went out to Japan and got the belts and everything else. Never had surgery, never did anything except for medicinal healing.
Yep.
Mind, body, and soul kind of thing, doing a lot of touch therapy with my hands and showers, hot shower meditations, Yep. Carried me on, and I did a lot of stuff. Like I said, I wasn't active all the years that I was out, but I did a fair amount of stuff out there, kept myself active in it, and then I came back to California in 2015 and started doing shows with UEW. I don't know if you heard of their stuff at all.
I've not, no.
Well, when we get done, I'll send you a link to, or no, if you just go on, what do you call it, on
YouTube.
There's stuff for UEW and stuff like that that I was in. But I debuted with them in 2000, I think it was 15.
Yep.
And I kept going. Kept going.
You said you retired in 2020.
Yeah.
Would there be anything that would potentially make you want to scratch that potential itch and go out there and perform again? Would there be any scenario that would see Homeless Jimmy in a wrestling ring again?
Yep. Just only one scenario. A money contract.
Right.
I could probably still go at it just as good as I did before. You know what I mean? I'm actually in better shape now because I've lost some weight. Yep. I'm back down to where I was when I first started Homeless Jimmy, kind of. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the skill's still there. You know what I mean? I still work out a bit and everything else, so I could hold my own and go and work for like somebody like AEW if they wanted, you know what I mean, a short run with them if they wanted it, just for the hell of it, whatever. Because I don't know where the Briscoes, you know where the Briscoes wrestle at?
I think they're at Impact Wrestling at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could easily go there because one of the Briscoes actually interfered in one of the matches that I had against Pondo and with the Hellaware Assassin. We had a match and he was out there and he was actually not supposed to be part of the match. He was just out there because he was already drunk from being out there and whatever. And he showed up. One of it, I can't remember which one of the brothers, but one of them was out there, and he ended up hitting me over the head, I think, with the chair, and then I came swinging. I was gonna really fucking like go at him, kind of deal, because he wasn't even supposed to be part of our match, and he's hitting my partner and hitting me, and I was like, nah, that ain't gonna happen, out with you, kid. And but yeah, I could bring that rehash that and go up against them, for a chance at the title or something, you know what I mean? A short one. Kind of that would be a scenario, but nobody's knocking on my door, brother. Nobody's knocking on my door. Nothing, I may have done a lot of cool things and a very likable character, but I've always been a humbled person, and I don't really think of myself that great. That's why I didn't amount to much in the business, because I really didn't. I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have that much confidence enough to get me somewhere else. You know what I mean? I actually had Bruce Hart from the Hart Foundation in Canada. He came up to me one night at one of the XPW shows and said, "Hey, you want to come out to Calgary and work with us?" And I said, "Well, isn't it get cold up there?" And he said, "Yeah, I get real cold." And I said, "I'm sorry." And I'm serious. I was that, and because my mom, I love my mom, but she always played the guilty, the old I'm sick Jewish mom kind of deal every time I was gonna do something, you know what I mean? And I thought like, man, I got my mom and it's cold. Thank you. And I turned down the Heart Foundation. That was probably one of the worst things I'd done to my self in this business, is turn down the Heart Foundation.
Yeah.
Who the hell does that? All right. What a dumbass.
No, but I understand, bro. I wanted to know also, do you have you had the chance to watch that episode of Dark Side of the Ring about XPW and Rob Black? And I just want to know your thoughts on it.
What do you mean specifically? Like thoughts on what? Because honestly, I didn't watch a lot of it, and I don't remember a lot of it because I mean, I know the whole story, but you know what I'm saying? So I don't, what specifically about it? Because I lived that. So now, I mean, that was my life. I lived with XPW for 2.5 years, 2 years, you know what I'm saying? And it's still part of my existence, that comes up all the time. You're not the first to ask these questions. So
Yeah.
what did I think about it? I mean, really, honestly, it was just another show doing a piece. I'm glad, I'm cool. I think I'm happy that it all came out to light, a lot of the BS that was going on. I didn't know what was going on with, shoot, help me with his name. The one that was hanging up and got hit with the chair.
Luke
from the Ultimate, Luke Hawks. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. I don't know him personally. I've never got to meet him. I was already gone when they brought him in, I believe. I was just, maybe it might have been, just hit and miss kind of thing, but didn't know much of him. So that whole story shocked me. I didn't hear about that. Right. And personally, it made me feel, a little ill. But, it also brought up bad memories of my own. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Hopefully everything's changed with this new XPW, but I don't see it. Leopard doesn't change his spots. Somebody's gonna come across Rob that he doesn't like, and he's just, because he got away with everything else, why not continue more, right?
Yeah, I understand, bro.
He found Jesus, right? He's gonna. I don't see being able to trust the guy. And some people ask me that, and they, I gave them my opinion, and they're still working there. So it is what it is. Can't say I didn't tell you so.
Exactly, bro. I think one thing that's
I wish it was different, because you know what?
Yeah.
I feel I would be able to go back to XPW had it not been Rob Black. If it was Kevin Kleinrock and he said, listen, we're making big deals like we used to. It's going to be an ongoing thing. We want you back. You could do what you feel like, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Here's the layout, and I would do it, because Joe FX, Big Joe, Big effing Joe that's going to be on there, right?
Yep.
I would love to work with him. Schlack, another one, love to work with him. Dirty Ron McDonald, one of my favorite guys. I'd love to work with him, but I can't now, because for one, I'm retired, and I'm not going to go work for Rob Black no matter what he offered me. It didn't nothing bring me back to his domain. I worked with him in UEW when I first got there. He was there, and he was a shady person then too, talking about how he was going to overrun this kid that owned UEW and take over UEW. And it's like, yeah, same fucking Rob Black as before, never changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one great thing about XPW was the camaraderie between a lot of you guys, and that was something that came out of that Dark Side of the Ring episode, especially with Chaos and what he had to say. It felt like you guys really, the wrestlers, really wanted to make it work. You all
Oh yeah,
work so hard, and I
we
think that's
busted
something
our
that
we
a
busted our
passion.
ass. We busted our ass, and it was
Yeah.
that we had something. It was something great going. It would have been one of the top things out there because we had stories that were coming along. You know what I mean? We had stories which you don't get that with regular independent wrestling, especially an independent deathmatch wrestling company, and they're doing stories where the guys fight in me and Supreme fought in the yard. You know what I mean? And chaos and them at the pool. I mean, there was so many different things that were happening. It wasn't just wrestling, it was a story. You know what I mean? And I mean, if, like I said, had it not been some of that stupidity going on with Rob, in real life, messing around with people like that, he would have been higher up. We would have been up there. I wouldn't have left. Messiah probably wouldn't have left, and we would all been making a lot of money because we were getting there. We were on our way to being the next, big company that people are paying bukus of money to come and see us.
I agree, bro. I agree, and
we had thousands of people. We had thousands of people in the crowd.
Yeah,
you can't tell me that we were doing something wrong. We were doing something right.
100%.
It should have been a different, it would have been different. It had the mindset been different with the upper people, meaning the owner, Rob Black.
I wanted to ask you for all the Homeless Jimmy fans out there, XPW fans will be watching this interview, just to let them all know what's going on in your world today. What is your life like these days?
Well, I don't do a regular 9 to 5. I actually drive around and do Uber Eats. I don't know if you guys have that in Australia.
We do, yeah.
Okay, so I drive for Uber Eats and just saving up money right now so I could go tour around the United States. I already did that once, drove around to different, states and, stopped here and there and say that I've been there. I drove semi trucks for a little while, for about a year. I got my CDL and I drove the big trucks, transported stuff across the country into Canada and all the way down to Mexico. And I crisscrossed every state in America except for Hawaii and Alaska. Hawaii, obviously, unless I sit on the barge with the truck, you know what I mean? If they tip the truck over and I went up, but I don't think they do that, but and Alaska is way up there past, whatever. So I didn't do any Alaska driving.
And plus Alaska's cold.
Yeah, and it's so cold. I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, so now I'm I got a little girlfriend and we've been together for going on 3 years. And we go touring around, tooting around the United States here. She doesn't fly, so it makes it harder to get some places, but we've talked about doing cruises. And there's one that takes us around so many countries, you know what I mean? And you stop, and I think it's like a 6 months cruise, and you dock at different places around the world, and one of them will be Australia. So one day I'm hoping to set foot out there, That would be another reason. You asked me a question, and I'll put it like this. If there's another company from, said, like Australia or England, or somebody really wanted Homeless Jimmy for one more time and they want to, fly me in there and make sure we have, because one of the things that I'm going to jump off subject and get back to that in a minute. But one of the things that the up and coming wrestlers and promoters don't think about, and that's merchandising. You got to merchandise yourself well, like the shirts and the things that you're wearing, stuff like that is a side money that you could help with your company and with yourself. If you're a professional wrestler, you should have pins, whatever it is, books, DVDs, whatever you have available to sell, you need to do that, because Nobody's going to be putting that money in your pocket except for you in this business. You know what I mean? You get promoted, you get put on a show, and you get paid for that. But that ain't going to pay no bills unless you're working for Vince McMahon. That's the top of the food chain right there. That's the mecca of the business as we speak, because that's who makes the big money. Right now, that's the only people that make the big money. AEW, I don't know what they're paying. They probably pay good money for the bigger guys, for the named guys. But small guys like me, I wouldn't be making enough to survive. I mean, the way I do, yeah, because I live pretty simple. I actually toot around in an RV. So live small and simple, don't have to worry about, a house, and you know what I mean? Get up and cool. Leave, go to the next destination.
That's cool.
But so I'm kind of basically still the nomadic homeless Jimmy,
Yeah, very cool, bro.
Yeah. So I mean, I lived the gimmick, kind of, sort of. I don't own a home, so technically I am still homeless Jimmy.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah. I don't itch and twitch as much.
Oh, bro, I really have appreciated your time on this show so much. We still have one final segment to go. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. It's 12 quick fire questions, just your favorite this, your favorite that.
Okay.
So the first one on 5 Second Frenzy is, who is your favorite professional wrestler?
Well, growing up, Macho Man was one of my inspirations. I just, for some reason, he was so flamboyant with his hats and the glasses and the streamers and the running out and the oh yes and the all that. Just, that was my idol growing up. And then later on, when I was a little bit older and I started picking back up in Israel, I saw Undertaker. Because being, my mom was American too, so she knew about it, thankfully, and we looked up stuff that we could find, like videos and stuff like that. So we'd at our video store, we found a guy that knew how to market stuff back and forth, so he was getting them pretty regularly. So we were actually getting caught up on all the pay-per-views and stuff like that. So Undertaker, of course, became one of my favorites, because I'm a very good person, but I like the darkness too. You know what I mean? I like skulls and I like dreary stuff. I like scary things, the Undertakers, the grave diggers, the skulls and all that stuff. But I'm a very, very uplifting, spiritual kind of person in real life. So I like, so those guys were my two WWE favorites. Then later on, Papa Shango, and I like Sid Vicious. So as far as hardcore now, Sabu was one of my favorites. Cactus Jack was another one, and of course Terry Funk. And getting to see Terry Funk in the movies too was awesome. So I actually got to meet all three of my wrestling heroes. I worked with one, Sabu. I tag teamed with him in a match. I got my hand raised by Terry Funk, and then Cactus Jack, Mankind, Mick Foley. I met him at a convention center and sat down and took some pictures with him. So I got to meet all three of them, which one was, I had to pay for.
That's really cool, bro.
He was the legend, and a lot of people, there was one of the magazines that I think it was Wow magazine, and they quoted Terry Funk, and Terry Funk himself said, he reminds me of a younger, shorter version of Mick Foley.
That's cool.
So, and they posted that shit in the magazine. So, I mean, that was like, oh my gosh, that's so honorable. I felt like, oh my God, that's, they're comparing me to a legend. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
The next one was favorite opponent. Do you have somebody that was your favorite person that you ever worked with?
John Cronus.
Excellent. Is there one match from your time in professional wrestling that's your favorite one?
Oh yeah, when he threw me off of the low section in the LA Sports Arena, which means when you walk into the stadium and they have the bleachers and then they have the first floor.
Yep.
And so they have those big bay doors that have like that you could drive a truck into.
Yep.
So up above those were bleachers, more seats, and me and Cronus went up there, punching each other, fighting, throwing each other in the chairs, and then finally he threw me off. He Bill tossed me, and I went head first through 2 tables, and I was 35. We measured it to 35 feet in the air.
Yeah, bro. Crazy.
So that was an exciting moment of mine. Like I said, this is just the kind of person that I was. I walked into the stadium first time in this stadium, and it's a big thing, you know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. And the ring was being set up in the middle. And then Rob Black walked up and he goes, "What do you think, Jimmy?" And I said, wow, it's huge. I said, I hope we fill it up, which we didn't, but we had a couple of thousand in there, I know, but not anything to fill it up. It was closer down to the ring. But he said, "So what are you gonna do tonight?" And I looked over at that spot and I said, "How about if I come off of that?" And he goes, "Are you kidding me?" I go, "No, I'll do that." And he goes, "You're gonna do that for tonight's show?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, he was ecstatic, and that was, that's what I gave to him. And in return, of course, I got shit on,
Yeah.
He still didn't like me enough to, what do you call it? He didn't, I don't think he liked me getting the status that I got. You know what I mean? I think he just truly envied my upcoming, and he wasn't where I was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter how much he put himself on that, on the top of the matches, being part of the main event all the time, and it was basically like the Rob Black show, that's not what the fans were coming there for. They were coming there to see performers wrestle. Your show is one thing. You can get the ratings on your TV show and hype yourself all you want, but in the end, the fans come there to see the wrestling. And I think he just didn't like that, that some people got to a certain level and he didn't like it.
I understand, bro. The next one, we're getting away from wrestling now. Do you have a favorite book?
A favorite book? The first and only book that I read was First Blood. Rambo, First Blood.
Yep.
So that was the first and only book that I actually read from page 1 to the very end.
Right.
I wasn't really good in reading and writing when I was growing up. I had dyslexia. I still do, but I learned how to overcome that. Part of the reason why I'm not that great on computers and stuff. But I didn't read much. I had a lot of learning disabilities, and then having to go to another country, I had to learn a whole different language, basically out of the blue, because the reason why I went to, I'll cut it short, but I went to Israel because a cousin of mine was kidnapped and held ransom for $500,000. And we still never got his body. I mean, we never retrieved a body. My family paid the ransom and never got the child back. And it was a horrible thing that happened to my family here in the States. And because I was Jewish, my family sent me and my mom to Israel to get away from this person, because it was still a big thing. I do discuss it sometimes, and I probably shouldn't get too much in detail, but the Las Vegas, Nevada mob was partially part of it. my family were very rich Jewish people that had carpet company and diamond companies in Vegas and stuff. So they schmoozed with the mob, putting all the carpets in all the hotels and stuff. And that's what happened, you know, when you got money and you flaunt it, people tend to see what you have and want it. And then next thing you know, they're kidnapping your kid and wanting $500,000 for him. So that was a quick synopsis is why I went to Israel and why I have a hard time reading. No, I read a lot of stuff like, you know, National Geographic is my favorite book. If you want to ask me what my favorite book, that is totally should be in every fucking kid's library is a National Geographic subscription. Every kid should have that at a certain age. They should have National Geographic on their table at all times, because that is what helps you learn things around the world and nature and how we are a big one, you know, entity. But not enough people are like that. But next question, man. You get me on that all day. I'll start talking about all kinds of crap.
The next one, bro, is a favorite TV show, whether, you know, one from when you were a kid or if you're watching anything now.
Well, you know, I'm a big zombie kind of person, so Walking Dead probably is definitely on the top of my list. I just finished watching I binge watched Supernatural. That was really good, and I guess they're going to be doing another season for some, you know, whatever. I like that. That was all right. I mean, it was nothing like Walking Dead. Let's see. In old school, I grew up watching the A-Team, you know. That was one of my favorite shows. And again, you know, you asked a perfect question, kind of asking me that, because Different Strokes, you know that show?
Yeah.
With the girl Kimberly and Arnold and Willis, right? So Kimberly was Dana Plato. That was my cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was a cousin of mine. She's on my mom's dad's side, my grandpa's side of the family. She was a cousin of mine. So I actually got into doing commercials because of her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she used to watch me when I was a little kid, and then you know, she ended up getting me hooked up with a person, and I did commercials for Tommy Toys, May Company, Maxwell House. What other? Did I say McDonald's?
No.
I was one of the kids,
wow.
I was one of the kids that ran up to Ronald and was like, Ronald, you know, and we're like, all right, come, let's do it again. This kid didn't look like he was happy, you know, whatever. I did commercials when I was a kid, so yeah.
That's really cool.
Yep. I used to, you know, of course, that was one of my favorites because I was my cousin on that.
Awesome, bro. Do you have a favorite film?
A favorite film? My number one all-time favorite film is Conan the Barbarian.
Good
when
choice.
I saw that when I was a kid, my cousin had it. I was only like 5 or 6. And my cousin was 13, so he had a little bit more adult films on cassette and stuff. And so when I was over there, I would have time and then watch those movies with him or alone, you know. And man, I think I watched Conan the Barbarian a million times probably throughout my living. You know, I always had it on DVD or video or something, you know. And the soundtrack, I listened to the soundtrack too, you know.
Excellent, bro. Good choice. Very good choice.
Definitely my top.
Cool. Favorite musical artist or band?
Oh God. I'm gonna say, you probably, I don't know if they're very big or not, but from the 70s, 80s, Supertramp.
Oh, cool. Yep.
So Supertramp is probably one of my favorite all times, and still will be always my favorite. Breakfast in America is, I mean, if you could, the way I look at it, if you could if you have an album and you could sing word for word every song in that album and you don't flip songs, you know that's your favorite album. You know what I mean? And so that's definitely one of them that I can, you know, Breakfast in America has always been one of my favorite albums of all time. And I guess so are they. But I love Zed. I listen to everything, even like sounds of Australia. You know what I mean? I listen to sound stuff, listen to stuff for meditation. You know, a big genre that I like is what do you call it? Bluegrass. You know, with the banjos, the bluegrass.
Awesome.
I don't really like country much. I don't like the modern country. Some of the older Western country, like Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. You know, I like them, but I didn't really get into the Loretta Lynn's and all that stuff. But I listen to it now because my girlfriend does. But I listen to country. I love rap. Some of it is stupid, some of it's not. My favorite rap singer of all time is Busta Rhymes. I love Snoop Dogg also. I was a big NWA fan.
Yep.
I've listened to Metallica. I come out to Metallica. That's my favorite song to come out to as Homeless Jimmy, who is From Wherever I May Roam.
Yeah.
You know that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nomad vagabond, call me what you will. That was my song. They made it for me, man.
Perfect for Homeless Jimmy.
Yeah, it was. They actually sued people for using their songs and stuff before. They don't give people permission to use their songs a lot.
Yeah.
So I got away with using that from 99 all the way until I retired. I used that song. I used one of their songs. So
awesome, bro. Getting away from the arts now. Do you have a favorite food?
Favorite food? I don't know. Mashed potatoes and steak was always a favorite of mine. I'm a cultural person, so I like to try different things.
Yep.
I've eaten all different types of food: Indian food, Ethiopian food, you name it, Russian, Argentinian. I've had everything. I've been a connoisseur of foods for a long time and been there. Like I said, I've done a lot. If I had a book, I would write a book and it would be called Homeless Jimmy's Been There, Done That. You think that's a catchy slogan?
I think that would work.
Been there, done that, because I've done a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things. I've been a lot of places. I've lived in a lot of places. I lived in like 5 different states here in America in only 20 something years. Yeah. And then lived in Israel for 12 and a half years, born here and raised here, but lived in different parts of the city. My mom, like I said, moved everywhere all the time. I never had 2 school pictures from the same school.
Wow.
Let's see, I've learned how to ride horses. I learned martial arts. I tackled 3 major martial arts things, judo, karate, kung fu. Then in the Israeli army, I trained in Krav Maga. So I know that. I used to drive. I've driven everything from box trucks, which was my first time learning how to drive. I was put in behind a big truck, right? I had to do the double clutch and everything with the 16, 18 gear, whatever it was. Not the big ones, but a big truck. I had a convoy trucks. And that was my first thing that I learned how to do was in the Israeli army. They picked me up and taught me how to drive trucks. And then I drove Jeeps, Hummers, the half tracks, which have like the front big giant wheel, and then the back is it looks like a tank, like a tank in the truck had a baby, I drove those. The only thing I didn't get that I missed out was skydiving. I haven't done that yet. I haven't swam with sharks yet. But I did go water skiing. I jumped off of a building. If you look up Homeless Jimmy on YouTube, there's videos, and there's one of them where I jump off the stratosphere in Las Vegas. which is their tallest building out there.
Yeah.
I jumped off of that with just wires hooked up on me.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, you gotta check that out if you haven't seen that.
I'm gonna check
But yeah,
that out for sure.
I'm gonna be one day, hopefully, if I can get some money and a what are they called, shadow writer or skeleton writer or somebody that could
Ghost
write my
Rider?
shit. A ghostwriter, yeah, I need a ghostwriter so I could put all this in a book. I thought of doing like a DVD, kind of like what we're doing, but just put it on DVD, you know, and sell it as Homeless Jimmy's been there, done that, and it was have stories, and then matches in between, or a story and you know a compilation where it has a DVD with the stories and a DVD with the matches, you know.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
I love IHOP.
IHOP, right.
I've always been an IHOP fan when I was a kid. I grew up eating, you know, IHOP, and I like the Del Taco, but I have to stop eating all that junk food because of my high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So
the next one is, do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink alcohol, just a favorite beverage in general.
well, you know, I'll nurse a beer. I'm not a big drinker. I've nursed beers before, you know what I mean? I'll drink one. Preference, I like what do you call it? Corona.
Yep, cool.
Some of they have even better Coronas, like the whatever it is, the extra or the whatever.
Yeah.
They have the little special ones. Those are good. But I could drink pretty much any beer. I've tried, again, just like food. I've tried different ales and lagers and this and that. I did a quick race or whatever it was, a competition where you drank a pitcher of Guinness. Guinness, the company man from Guinness came out to Israel, and he was trying to get them to sell at the club that I was at, and he had a bunch of people try and chug, and the winner got a t-shirt, and it was a Guinness t-shirt, and that was actually the first shirt I used to wear when I was Homeless Jimmy. But I got
Awesome.
that as in a competition. So I've drinking anything. Hard liquor, you know, I've had it all. I like it all. Whiskey is good, you know, but I've tried vodka. I've tried mixed drinks. I've tried them all. Like I said, I'm one of those people that I want to do pretty much anything and everything, almost everything and anything. Pretty close to it. Yeah.
The second last one here, bro, on this segment is, I guess, the naughtiest question of them all. Favorite female body part? You see a good-looking lady, where do Homeless Jimmy's eyes go to first?
Gosh, you know, I do like a pretty face. I prefer, you know, it can't be an ogo. I'm a type of person that, you know, I don't like to jump around. So I want to be with somebody that I know I'm going to be with for a while, and you got to like their face for one.
Yep.
But after that, man, I mean, I've changed throughout the years. I used to be an ass person. I like the camel toe, you know what I mean? Breasts have never been an issue for me. I mean, I like them all. Not too fond of the fake ones. I've seen a lot of fake ones, and it just didn't do nothing for me.
Yep.
I prefer it to be real, and if it sags, it sags. It's just life, you know what I mean?
Of course.
And as you get older, you got to get used to those things. So
excellent answer there. I'd have to say the face is a fantastic answer. And the last one here, Homeless Jimmy, do you have a favorite curse word?
I say fuck a lot, I guess.
Yeah, that's usually the number one answer for that question on this show.
Yeah.
Well, Homeless Jimmy, I really appreciate your time, bro. This has been really fun to learn about you. I've learned so much more than I thought I knew about you before. This has really been an informative session on your life. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me here today. And I say it all the time. You might have said earlier that you didn't make it to the tippy top of the wrestling business, but I think this is really important that I live in the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia. So for me to be a fan of you and to reach all the way over to the most isolated city in the world, I think that speaks volumes, and that you should be very proud of what you've accomplished, not only in wrestling, but in life.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That
And,
means a lot. That really means a lot. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you being on the show, sir. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So are we going to keep in touch now? Or are you going to start doing Facebook?
I'll start keeping in touch with you on Facebook, bro. Absolutely.
Good deal.
Well, thanks, Jimmy. Really appreciate it, man.